So I'm looking forward to getting back into the Orville, having been generally impressed with the show's first season. I'll be doing my Season 2 review in multiple parts. Today, we're looking at the first 3 episodes. Now, I'll be honest, these first 3 episodes are a bit of a mixed bag. By no means are the episodes bad, but I'm still getting the impression that this series hasn't truly hit its stride, and it just feels that creatively, the Orville hasn't achieved its full potential. The season opener is called Jaloja, which has been described as a character-driven story, and that's essentially what it is. As a season premiere, it does a pretty decent job of reintroducing all of the main characters so that newcomers to the show can get up to speed on everything quite quickly, and in that sense it works very well. All of the main ensemble get a reasonable amount of things to do. The episode begins with Ed drowning his sorrows in the mess hall. He's still hurting over the breakup with Kelly from last season. Though I like Captain Mercer quite a bit, and Seth MacFarlane does a solid job as the show's lead, the character can be a bit beta at times. The needy, lovesick puppy thing is not an endearing quality, and in his conversations with Kelly, where he's basically begging for her to take him back, he just comes off as weak and massively insecure. When it comes to being a captain, he's large and in charge. When it comes to his relationship with Grayson, he's a bit emasculated. Long story short, their story is the primary plot thread of the episode. There are 5 stories in this episode. 4 of them are anchored to the Bortus B-plot, which is that he must return to Moklis because he has to urinate. Something that Moclans only do once per year. And it's followed by a celebration known as Jaloja. So this is obviously a piss take, pun intended, of the Vulcan Pon farr from Star Trek, and generally it's played reasonably well for a few laughs. Lieutenant Malloy's story focuses on his romantic interest with a new female crew member. Lieutenant Lamar, who doesn't actually have his own specific story, helps to mentor him, giving him dating advice and putting him through a series of holographic simulations of nightclubs in order to help hone his social skills when it comes to meeting women. In the end, Malloy simply doesn't have the courage to ask her out, and by the end of the episode there's a hint that she may be a new romantic interest for Ed. The Mercer-Grayson story is based around her largely moving on with a new boyfriend and Ed being jealous. There is some reasonable comedy mined out of this, including a hilarious shuttle flyby sequence where Ed spies on her and her new boyfriend, but Ed just comes off as creepy at times, though he does eventually put his pettiness aside and actually helps Kelly's new boyfriend smooth things over with her after they have an argument. Dr. Claire Finn's story concerns her son and his friendship with one of his classmates who's an extremely bad influence on him. Isaac assists her in clearing her son's name when he's blamed for hacking the computer system to generate a bottle of vodka from the food synthesizer. The final plot thread is Alara's search for romance on the Orville, which effectively ends in more frustration. The episode is a good showcase of the characters and a solid use of the ensemble, but as a season premiere, I would have wanted a story that was bigger, more ambitious, and with an emphasis on more sci-fi elements. But overall, it's a decent entry into the series, and it was also successful at re-establishing the interpersonal relationships on the show. Episode 2 is called Primal Urges, and is proof that although this show is heavily inspired by Star Trek, it's most certainly not a family show like Star Trek. The episode focuses on Bortus and his marital problems. He and his mate Clyden have been having some relationship issues lately, and Bortus has developed a porn addiction in the simulator. Suffice to say, some Moclan grossness ensues. What I did actually find quite hilarious in this episode was that Bortus's porn addiction actually caused one of the computer simulations he used to affect the Orville systems with a computer virus. Bortus and Clyden attend couples counselling with Dr. Finn, which helps them discover that Bortus still hasn't forgiven Clyden for not doing more to stop their child's gender being changed in one of last season's episodes about a girl. While I think it was certainly important that this was brought back up again, especially since a lot of people were unhappy with how that episode concluded, I'm a little tired of Bortus's main character thread always being his marriage and the obvious subtext of the all-male Moclan species. In my view, it just gives the impression that the show is trying to pay lip service to political correctness. I actually think there was potential in the B-plot with regard to Bortus's confrontation with Isaac on the planet that's about to be destroyed when they're trying to rescue the survivors. The third episode is the best of the 3. Home is Alara Katan's feature episode, and sadly, the character's last. It was known that Halston Sage was leaving prior to the start of Season 2, so I wasn't surprised, but it's taken this long for her character to grow on me, and now, unfortunately, she's gone. So, in what has become a Friday night tradition on the Orville, Alara and Isaac have an arm wrestle in the mess hall while everyone else places bets on which one of them will win. Being the two crew members with superhuman strength, obviously this makes for an exciting contest. Unfortunately, Alara not only loses, but she's unexpectedly injured, and upon a visit to the sickbay, she learns that she's gradually becoming weaker. Her Zalayan strength is fading due to her long-term exposure to the lighter Earth-like 1G gravity of the Orville. If she remains on board, her strength will eventually be no greater than that of a human female of her size. Ed tries to reassure her and says that this will in no way jeopardize her position as head of security, and that he'll provide her with more manpower. She'll still lead the security team. But Alara believes that she wouldn't be respected by her subordinates, many of whom would probably be much stronger than her, and that some of them may even feel sorry for her. She doesn't want anyone's pity. I actually really appreciated the sensitivity and honesty by which the writers dealt with this situation. Anyway, Alara is advised to return to her home planet in order to reacclimatize for a time and then return to active duty. The story is mainly about her reconciliation with her parents, specifically her father, who never gave her the encouragement she sought all her young life and who never valued her work in the military. Alara spends her days with her family, attempting to readapt to the Zalayan gravity. She's greatly weakened in this state and confined to a kind of anti-gravity chair. During a family vacation to a beach house, they befriend some other vacationers, but in truth, they harbour an ulterior motive. They soon hold Alara's entire family captive in order to seek revenge on Alara's father, Ildis, who they blame for the death of their son, a promising young medical researcher who believed that the malaria vaccine was putting children at risk of Torin syndrome. Ildis didn't intentionally try to ruin their son, he merely pointed out flaws in his scientific methodology. Long story short, Alara is forced to save her family, and she finally reconciles with her father. The Orville crew discover a treatment for Alara that would allow her to remain on board the ship and retain her full Zalayan strength, but now that she has the chance to have the kind of relationship with her father that she always wanted, she decides to remain on Zalea. An emotional farewell with her fellow crewmates follows. Ed tells her that she'd be welcome back any time. The episode concludes with Ed opening a gift that she gives him. Poignantly, it's a jar of pickles. That was a very sweet way to end this episode, and indeed Alara's story arc, and it did make me smile. For those who aren't aware or don't recall, in the first season, whenever Ed needed Alara's massive physical strength, for example, a jammed door that needed opening by force, he would ask, "Alara, can you open this jar of pickles for me?" Anyway, Alara's final story is without doubt her finest moment, and sadly, we say goodbye, at least for now, to Halston Sage, who is a fine actress and made for a solid part of the ensemble. It was also nice to see Star Trek alumni Robert Picardo and John Billingsley back in action, and they did a fine job in their respective roles. I'll also say that this episode has some really strong visual effects shots, especially on the planet. The CGI really is movie quality in places. I'm still expecting bigger and better things from the Orville in Season 2, though the show feels a bit inconsistent at times. There's still some positives to take away from these opening 3 episodes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more in this review series, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.